Hello and welcome to WordCamp Europe Insights podcast. Remember that we are not only on YouTube and Spotify, but also on every other podcast platform that you probably can imagine. So remember to subscribe. And let's begin. My name is Kasia Janowska. I am WordCamp Europe organizer. And my guest today is
Milana Tap. I'm also WordCamp Europe organizer, but I'm also a documentation team representative and also will be a documentation team table lead at WordCamp Europe Contributor Day. And that is the reason why I'm here. I'm also some other things, but that's for another podcast.
It's so nice to have you here. And as you probably already know, this series of podcast is called WordCamp Dragons. And this is because this year's WordCamp Europe is happening in Krakow. Oh, you have a dragon. So nice.
I have a dragon and a baby.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a pretty great tattoo. I love it.
Yeah.
So you won't be scared of the fact that this year's questions might be a little bit straightforward, a little bit surprising, because they are inspired by WordCamp mascot and Krakow's mascot this year. It's a dragon from Krakow. It's a Slavic beast that has nothing to do with good upbringing. So be ready for straightforward questions.
So I'm also Slavic based, so yeah, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, so let's start with that. From which country are you originally, and do you still live there?
Yes, I live in the same city. I was born in Novi Sad, Serbia, but I was born in 4 countries ago. So this is the fourth um, official country that I live in, and still living in the same city.
So you are traveling so much around the world without moving from the same spot.
Exactly.
And as we already know from the episode with Pier Mario about speakers team, you are in the speakers team this year. But not only that, according to that episode, you are walking, living, breathing legend in WordPress community.
Yeah, I saw that episode and I was like, oh my God, they're talking about me.
So, in your WordPress org profile, you have probably almost all badges possible. So, I imagine you contribute to WordPress a lot during your day. So, tell me, how do you contribute? Why do you do that?
Oh, well, I contribute mostly with documentation. Constant since 12th May 2011. And lately, I'm doing more of the administration around the team. So I'm trying to enable people to do that so I can go back to writing documentation. And I do some plugin reviews and I prepare talks and I go around WordCamps and give talks.
Badges just appear in your profile.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
beautiful.
yeah. Well, that's the badges. There are also, I'm organizing a meetup in my city, and I'm also someone that is very familiar to all people who are not English native speakers. You start with translations. So I'm for Serbian language, I'm translator and general editor. I think it's called that way. So those badges are there as well. Also volunteering at WordCamps, speaking, organizing WordCamps. Then I believe there's a community one. And also for support. Now, for support, I think that I got badges because I was recording videos how to contribute to documentation team, and those videos are now at WordPress TV, and I think that's why I got those. I'm not sure why. But
Okay.
some are there. I'm not sure why. And also I was doing documentation for WordPress releases, so that's why I have the core badges.
Nice. And why do you do that? What is there in it for you to contribute so much?
Well, there are, I believe, two major factors. First of all, I wanted to be better developer. You know, if you want to be a better developer for WordPress and to build on WordPress, then it's best if you can be in touch with what's happening in WordPress and what are new features and all of that. But even better, in my opinion, is if you try to document it. When you can document new code, that means you understand it. And that's why I'm doing it. That is the major reason that was my reason in 2011, and it's still my reason. And that is the reason why I haven't been, uh, burned out and haven't stopped contributing, because there is always something personal for me in there. I'm not going to go political here, but I'm born in communism. I don't recommend communism anywhere, but there is this theoretical idea of communism that you give as much as you can and take as much as you need. And that is to me the idea of the open source. And going there, giving what you can and taking what you need. And if everybody do that, just a little thing, then we can grow something really nice.
And in this ecosystem of open source, it actually makes sense and no one is harmed by this system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do that because you want to be a better developer and it just stuck with you, I guess.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to start before the official part of WordCamp Europe, we also have Contributor Day. Could you tell us what Contributor Day is?
Well, Contributor Day is a different thing for different people, and also different thing for different WordCamps. With the big WordCamps like WordCamp Europe, which is, I dare to say, the biggest WordCamp in the universe, there is a very big contributor day, and you get all people, you get all teams in there most of the time. There are like one or two teams that don't have representative there, but usually you have all the teams. And WordPress has a lot of teams, like 27 teams. So when you get representative for each of those teams under one roof, imagine the IQ, the creativity, the mass of brains inside of one room. To me,
Yeah.
that's the most beautiful thing in Contributor Day. So contributing from home is something you can do every day and, do work with all those people, but it's online. But now, when you can see them all in one room, you can have a coffee with them, you can share chocolate with them or cookie, you can talk to them like person to person and get to know them better. That's completely different story.
Yeah, and last year I remember there was like 800 spots for Contributor Day. So
Hmm.
800 people contributing at the same time. And it
Yeah.
was so beautiful to actually see that.
Yes.
And there's 800 people. I am not sure how many there will be this year, but are they all developers? Is that day only for developers?
No. Here is the thing that I uh, maybe don't like about Contributor Day is that you really don't have enough time to do any specific work. And especially when there are 800 people in the room, you don't have focus to work on something deep. That's the first thing, that you will not actually do a lot of things at Contributor Day. But what you can do is you can actually get to know what teams are there. And as I said, there is only one team that is actually doing the code, and that's core team. Meta team is building it. They are also doing code, but they are building the WordPress org and ecosystem for the whole community. But all the other teams have more or less to do with code. And there are teams that don't do anything with code, like community team or marketing team or design team, even though I have to question that, because now we can design inside of WordPress and then we can export that and see the code. But also, so many teams are there and you can actually walk around, ask each table. What are you doing? What is the main focus? Do you need someone like me? Like, I know this and I want to do that. And the thing is important to remember that the whole WordPress project is in very small percentage just code. So it's not just for developers. There are so many things you can do without knowing anything about code.
Yeah, and I also heard from one of the community members, I don't know if that's true, that the original idea of Contributor Day was a special day to introduce people who are not specialists into contributing. It wasn't about being super developer
Yes.
or super specialist. It was like, what can I do? Teach me.
Yes. Exactly, exactly. And basically, that's what you will learn at Contributor Day. Now, the problem is that, I mean, the problem, WordPress is huge project and there are a lot of teams. And sometimes when you see the name of the team, you think you know what they do, but they don't do that. Like design team or themes team or plugins team, you might think that plugins team is building plugins, but they're not. They're reviewing plugins that are built by other people. And at Contributor Day, if you are plugin author, you can go there and ask questions like, how can my plugin be there? And how can I make a better plugin? And all the other things that you can imagine to ask them. You can ask reviewers there. Also, the themes team, they're not building themes. There is one theme that comes with every new WordPress release, and that theme is built by community. But the rest of the team is reviewing other people's themes. Design team is also doing something completely different, not the thing that you think. So you should, take a look at what themes are there, but also try to read a little bit more about what they do, and then you can decide what you want to do and what skills you want to improve. Because to me, that's the major question for everyone who's coming to Contributor Day. What are the skills that I want to improve? Maybe those are the skills I already use at my work, or maybe I just want to try to see if I can do something else. Because for example, you and me, we have experience of organizing conference. That's completely different thing that you don't do for money. I don't do for money, but I know how it looks like to organize conference for 3,000 people and conference for 200 people. And I know what are moving parts of that. And that is not experience I could have in any other situation besides WordPress. Yeah.
And besides, it's very much different to organize a conference without one company paying for everything. You
Hmm.
still have to take the effort to encourage people to be your sponsor and so on. It is yet another
Yes.
level of this being harder than normal
Hmm.
company
Yeah,
conference.
yeah, yeah.
So there are different tables. And you already mentioned that you are documentation table lead. Can you tell me what documentation team does during Contributor Day?
Well, we eat cookies
Mostly.
mostly. Well, usually documentation team has a specific set of issues that we want to work on. Those are usually uh, easy, quick issues. Said already that you don't really have the quiet and you don't have the time, and you just meet new people, or you are seeing old friends after a year and you are not really focused on doing deep work for a longer time. So we prepare small issues that you can do in 10 to 30 minutes, and just feel that that you have contributed, that you have completed something, and also to understand how the process works. And we usually have that for specific contributor day. We have instructions how to prepare and everything in GitHub. And there is a list of all the GitHub issues that you can work on. So you read them, and if something is not clear, and usually there is something that's not clear because we don't know how much detail someone need, especially if they're first time there. So I usually tell people, if you feel that you don't understand something, you're not stupid. It's us. We didn't explain it well. So just yell and we will help you out. Basically, Contributor Day and what we do in documentation team, we just want to um, show you that documentation is not that difficult, that there are many different things. Like for documentation, you can also just record videos of using WordPress, or you can just make screenshots, which is not writing documentation at all, but you are, helping documentation team. And we have some people who are contributing only at contributor days and only at WordCamp Europe. And, they are very experienced because they are there every time, but they contribute only there, and they actually help us. Like if there's someone new, they're like, oh, you should read this and do that. And so, everybody's helping, and I'm the one who brings cookies.
You said that it is the responsibility of explaining what the table does is on you, and if someone that did not understand correctly, well, it is on you. So what do you think are the qualities of a person to become a table lead? Does this person has to be a super specialist in the field, or like has to have like a teaching attitude or something? What are the qualities you would like point out in those people?
Well, I would say mostly listening. Listen what people tell you, because usually lead is someone who is uh, a little bit familiar with documentation team. You really have to, at least be at some meetings and at least see how things work to be able to explain. You don't really have to be documentation specialist, because you are there to tell people where are things and how to do something, and that's usually already written. You just have to show them, and you are there to collect their usernames so they get the badge that they have contributed. And you don't need to go further from there, but you should listen what they tell you. And that is, I think, the best quality someone who is representing the team can have. Listen if something is not understandable. If they go through documentation and say this is not logical at all, you don't say this is how we do it in WordPress. You say, okay, show me why. What would you do? What would you change? And then maybe, and I, in my experience, you always learn something new and you always improve something, at least one bit. So that's why I want to encourage people, especially those who even don't know what WordPress is. If you can follow our documentation, that means documentation is good and we are done. But documentation is never done, so there's always a place to improve, and we cannot see that. We who are using WordPress every day, who understands things, and we don't, need everything to be explained. We don't need documentation to be detailed. People who don't know how to use it need that to be detailed, and we should listen to them if there's something missing, or there can be something improved.
And I guess also during this kind of big contributor day, not only listening, but also being able to talk to so many people at once, because there has to be a lot of people at one table and everyone has questions and everyone has like,
Yes,
to say something.
that's why we have all the things that we usually repeat. We have that written down in GitHub issue, so you can read it. And if there is really something unclear and you still have questions, then those are the questions that are very specific to you. And then, the amount of talking to people is lessened, but it's very efficient then.
What else would you say is special about being a table lead at this big contributor day in comparison to a local one? Because I guess you have experience in both.
Yes, well, I think this is more difficult. The bigger contributor day is more difficult because you have always more people who have maybe 2 3 tables, and you have to, take a look at all of them. And usually after contributor day at WordCamp Europe, or any bigger WordCamp like Asia or US, I'm exhausted. I haven't done any work and I'm completely exhausted and drained because a lot of that, noise and a lot of people and questions and all of it is just taking the energy out, and you really don't have time to do any work. But hopefully you at least interested one person to come to the meeting next, and start contributing. The smaller WordCamps usually have people who already know what they want to contribute to, and when they come to documentation table, they usually know what to do, and they are mostly contributors already. Maybe one or two persons who are very new. And depending on where the WordCamp is, I like to push the local person who has more experience to bring them in community, and I'm just there to provide cookies.
You and your cookies, I have to come to your table during
Yeah.
contributor day. So, besides of cookies, how would you encourage someone who has never even considered going to contributor day to actually come?
Well, I would suggest finding one thing to do or one person to meet. And I would suggest bring a piece of chocolate with you that you will give to this person that really makes impression on you, because this is the first day of WordCamp Europe and you will see that person in second 2 days at the actual conference, and you will have a friend there if you don't know many people. But I would set some kind of goal for it. Maybe the goal is find out what is this all about. And in that case, you can just go from table to table and find people to ask questions. Usually those are the people who are on the stage. So at the beginning of contributor day, there will be opening ceremony and every table lead will be brought to the stage and represent their team. So you can see who those people are and you can find them later and ask them questions like, what is your team doing? What kind of skills do you need? What would be the most interesting thing in your team? And then move on and go from table to table if you don't know what to do there. If you are not really into talking to a lot of people, maybe find someone and then go with them and, have a break and chat a little bit, take a rest. There's probably a lot of space for, taking rest and just go. It's okay. Having to absorb 800 people is too much for everyone. So it's okay if you need to go and take rest. And also you can make your plan, like what like I already said, what skill would I want to learn? What would be something that would be interesting to learn and start doing? And maybe you want to switch career, maybe you want to improve your career. Take a look and see what are the skills that you can get there, because I guarantee you there are all the skills you can imagine you can find there, even if it's managing projects or people, in teams, writing all sorts of documentation, because every team needs documentation, how to do stuff. So documenting processes, workflows, maybe creating lessons for other people, maybe reading lessons and saying, oh, this is not good or this is good. I learned something new. And also you can start organizing meetups in your city, or you can join if there is already meetup in your city. You can meet them and you can join them and help them. So you can also join other teams for organizing WordCamps, maybe your local WordCamp, or maybe a bigger one that is on your continent, like WordCamp Europe. You can volunteer, you can ask questions, just go and ask questions and have a little goal, that something to learn and one person to meet.
That's a very, very good advice. And you shared a very nice insight that honestly, me personally, I haven't thought of, which
Mhm.
is you actually can change your tables. Because at the very
Yes.
beginning of Contributor Day, There are those teams, table leads who tell us what table does what. And I could see that people tend to stay at one table, and maybe some of them are too shy to stand up and go somewhere else. So it is allowed.
Yes, and especially if you don't know where to contribute, and maybe if it's your first day, I wouldn't expect anyone to spend the whole day at one table. I personally would love to go to other tables, and ask questions there or contribute to other teams. And when you have more than one table lead, then you can do that if you're good friends. So you can switch, and if you have more people that are experienced at your table, they can take over and help new people. But I would encourage, go around, take advantage of having all those brains in one room. Don't spend it at one table.
Yeah, and as it comes to changing careers, you just reminded me that several of my friends came to a WordCamp with their company or while working on like steady contract. And half of them decided, oh my God, this community is so great. Now I will become a freelancer. So
Yes.
yeah, this really changes your life.
Yes, it does. It changed my life. I'm professional classical musician, and I was working in opera house, and now I'm developer. And I can tell you, I mean, I was freelancing for 4 or 5 years when I started contributing to WordPress. But actually, when I met community in my own city, that's what triggered the change, and that's when I completely switched.
And are you still a freelancer or are you working with some particular company right now?
Well, I am both. I am at XWP, which is agency, and they are also sponsoring my time at WordPress.org. But I'm a freelancer through TopTal platform, and I'm also sponsored by Kinsta and Project Planner for giving talks and doing documentation and everything. I'm a little bit of everything.
How do you talk a company into sponsoring you to be a contributor or to do talks on the name of WordPress?
For me, I was working, actually, I was volunteering. I was contributing to documentation for a decade for free. And then I went to a company and said, if I want to continue this, somebody has to give me some money because this is not sustainable. And that was also for speaking. I was already speaking a lot and, traveling as much as I could. And most of the money that I got from sponsorships, I was investing in traveling and preparing talks and everything. After a while, when that really got out of control, I went to sponsor that I knew that was already sponsoring community. And I said, I need help to keep doing this. So in my mind, it's first you have to show what you can give, and then will people gladly give you money to just keep doing that. So it's not the other way around, like, oh, I'm going to be cool when somebody sponsored me. No, you really, need to put there something and make something valuable to community. And if it is valuable, community will recognize and encourage you to keep doing that.
That's a beautiful thing that first be engaged and
Yeah.
then ask for something
Yeah.
in return.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add or we haven't mentioned anything important?
Just come to Krakow. It's a beautiful city. I loved it. It's so refreshing. So for me personally, being able to walk around the whole city and it's so green and fresh, I love it. And it's Slavic. So what's not to love there?
True. And there are pierogi. So you have to come
Yes.
to
Yeah. Oh,
taste.
yes. Yes. I love them.
So cookies during contributor day and pierogi right after.
Yes. Before and after.
Oh yeah, that's even better. So again, Thank you really very much for being here and recording this episode with me. And to you, the listener and the watcher, remember to subscribe. And if you got that far into this episode, please leave a comment on whichever platform you're listening to us. Just contribute. That's the comment you should leave. And this way, we will see how many of you lasted till this moment. And of course, remember to buy your tickets to WordCamp Europe. And for the Contributor Day, there will be a separate registration. So if you want to take part, remember to register. This way, you will get not only cookies, but also a nice lunch during the Contributor Day. So please do come and register. And thank you for listening. Bye.